is this is not another program where you do a few sessions and then the effect goes away. If this is, again, if the person puts the right effort in, this is life changing. So it's like, it's a cure. It's once and for all. I mean, my relationship with food started way earlier than that. Basically, by the time around hitting puberty is when I started having body image issues. And I come from a culture that really celebrates perfectly looking women. And there's a certain size for your waist and a certain size for, you know, your hips and so forth. And this is when my struggle with food started. But what that has done is it has changed the way I look at food. So for me, food was the enemy. And the more I could stay away from it or cut it down, the more success it would mean for me in terms of getting into a slimmer figure. And that was my life up until I saw you, basically. What I would say is, with a demanding job, you feel like you need to control even more. And the first sense of control that you have is basically on what you put in your body and the kind of food. Plus, given the nature of my job, I used to spend a lot of time traveling. Now, that means that I do not have access to salad or doing my own dressing at home or choosing what kind of food I eat. I have to stick to what was offered, you know, sometimes in the airport or on a plane or in a restaurant, in a hotel. And what I would typically do is, you know, just go to the supermarket, get some carrots and snack on carrots. And, you know, because that was the least calorie dense option that I would have. Now, that had fundamental effect on, you know, my brain, my energy levels. A lot of times I would feel, you know, really down. And obviously this at some point gets you to a state of, you know, almost depression, where you have no energy to do anything. You just want to be in bed, and you start isolating yourself from social, you know, social gatherings and so forth, just to avoid the cake or to avoid the bread or the pasta or whatever. So yeah, so when I came to see you, I was pretty stressed about, you know, gaining half a kilo or 1 kilo. And, you know, us women, we always fluctuate around periods or ovulation or whatever it is. And what the scale said meant so much about me, and I internalized the number so much. And my relationship with food was unhealthy at all. It was more, yeah, how can I deprive myself from as many food groups as possible, rather than how can I nourish my body and how can I make sure that I have a very balanced, nutritious intake. But then I saw you, and then things started changing. And I think that the first success was when you really taught me that food is not the enemy. Food is what gives you energy. And I remember we had one session where, you know, you asked me a bit about my job and what I like doing, and, you know, I like doing at work, but also outside work, and how much that would require energy, whether it's to my brain or to my body. And I remember I told you I was doing things that, you know, would help people around the world, whether they are, you know, people with disabilities or the planet, around sustainability and so forth. And I believe I was doing lots of good, but I was not giving my body the right energy to allow me to be of service, you know, to the causes that I care about. And equally outside work, I really like running, long distance running, and I like doing yoga and so forth. But the amount of food I was taking was not giving me the, you know, the energy levels that would allow me to do that. And this is when I think the focus was, okay, let's think about making sure that you are in a position to do the things that you like doing. And then let's think about what that means, how that translates into food groups and things you can eat. And then, you know, it was the slow education around what kind of grains I should eat that would, you know, balance my blood sugar for longer periods of time. So this is when, you know, I leaned more on oats rather than, you know, just crackers, or it was simple choices that you taught me to make every day, that's completely changed the way I look at food altogether. I needed a lot of education around when to eat and when not to eat. And I remember one of the tools you gave me is to check in with my body. I have a tendency to go for crunchy food when I am under stress, or when I feel any emotional deprivation, when I'm lonely, sad, whatever is happening with me. So, and my go-to thing was, okay, given that I was starving my body for a long time, then I would go and binge on crunchy things, on salty things, when I was feeling down, and then I would go through the cycle of guilt of why did I do this, and then again back to the starvation because I need to punish myself because I did something bad, of like binging. And I remember, you gave me a few tools around how to pause when I am not feeling well and think about whether the craving that I have is in my stomach or is in my mouth, and to identify whether that desire to binge is an emotional one, or is it actually that my body is hungry for food and I need to nourish it. And then if it's the latter, then how do I create a balanced meal? Of how do I design my plate of having, the veggies on one side, a bit of proteins and a bit of carbs, so I can sit and eat mindfully. So it was a combination of things. I would say you started with the education around, okay, let's unlearn all of the things that you've been doing for the past 10, 15 years. Let's get you to a place where you see food as something good for you and calories as, things that would allow you to do what you want to do. And then let's make sure that any bad habits are, pushed out of the way. So, get back into creating new habits around what to eat, when to eat, how to eat, mindfully, breathe well, so on and so forth. And that was hugely valuable. Like I know maybe I didn't see you for a long period of time. I can't remember how many sessions we did, but even when the pandemic hit and the entire world basically was going through, we're going to sit at home and binge watch and binge eat and try to deal with the anxiety in this way. I was actually really mindful about every single meal, and I was going for my walks and really applying all of the tools that you've given me. And that really helped me get through, I would say, one of the most stressful periods in my life. So thank you for that. Around a year ago, I got into, workouts at the gym, like bodybuilding and muscle training. And during that time, I certainly increased my food intake, and I certainly did grow. And I know that I was growing in muscles more than fat. But actually, I felt good about my body because then I was able to do the sessions that I wanted to do at the gym, and I was able to do the running that I wanted to do without, worrying too much about my knees because my quads were strong enough. And it's just that right now I see my body as a vehicle to let me do what I wanted to do. And the food is just the fuel for this vehicle so it can keep going. So there's no taboos around what I ate or how much I ate. Everything is okay. And there's this almost forgiveness to like do whatever, and permission to, look however I need to look. And I'm approaching 30. I know my body's going to change in my 30s, and then it's going to change again in my 40s. And if I, decide to have children, it's definitely going to change. And I feel like the work I've done with you has allowed me to worry less about how my body looks, but focus more on life, what I want to achieve in life, my stages, how I am growing as a person, and how my brain is developing, not only how my body is changing. And that has had a magnificent effect on, how I feel, but also how I plan my life. So thanks a lot. So when I started working with you, I was very skeptical about, is this going to be another, series of sessions that, I would, incorporate some changes, but then as soon as the sessions are over, I will go back to my old, like my demons are just going to stay there. And what I would say is, as any relationship, it doesn't depend on one person to succeed. This is just another thing where it depends on two. It takes the work that the person puts in, but it also takes how much you guide them. And I can definitely say that you have done a fantastic job in guiding me, giving me the tools, and actually seeing through me, through things that I was saying, what the real issues were. Like I remember, for example, in the past where I would freak out about my weight and, tell professionals that, okay, we will do whatever you want on the program, but let's weigh me and let's make sure that every 2 or 3 weeks I am dropping in weight. So, because for me, that was one of the, KPIs or measurements to know that this is working. Versus with you, every time I would bring something like this up, you would very politely dismiss it and shift the conversation on, this is not why we're here. This is not what we are working on. And it doesn't matter. And the moment you ask me, does it matter if you're 55 or 57 or 60 kgs, does it matter? And then this would let me, sit back and pause. Yeah, actually, this doesn't matter. And this is not why I'm here. So what I would, tell someone what I would tell myself back then and tell anyone who has been on this journey, one, this doesn't have to be your life. We all have demons in our heads, but you can definitely do something about that. With the right help, we cannot do it on our own sometimes. We do need, an external voice to guide us on that journey. Two, it takes two to tango. So you need to put the right effort in, the exercises that you gave me or the sheets that you asked me to fill or whatever it was. The more a person takes them seriously, the more change will really happen. This is not going to be a miracle where you say something and then something disappears from my head and I am all of a sudden very happy and healthy with, the way I look. And it's totally worth the investment that you make. If you just think about how much time and energy that issue occupies in your brain and how much you actually spend on it. You spend on it your health and your time, and that's worth way more than any amount that you can put in, pounds or dollars. So this is absolutely worth the investment, because when you get out of it and you're on the other side, you can look back and realize that, you've spent 10, 15 years suffering and didn't enjoy going out or, the company of people or being in parties. But it has all been a waste because, you could have done something about it and you could have changed it. Plus, for me, the biggest takeaway is this is not another program where you do a few sessions and then the effect goes away. If this is, again, if the person puts the right effort in, this is life-changing. So it's a cure. It's once and for all. So yeah, that would be my advice.